So I'm at a graveyard in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Now, as a Marine, when I was here 30 years ago, I did not realize this. The only thing I knew about African Americans and the Marine Corps, as far as in the early days, is that black Marines originally were trained only at Munford Point. Now, I want you to understand Munford Point for a second. Munford Point, like I said, is where black Marines were trained. Here at Verona Loop Graveyard, the Verona Loop Graveyard is here on the side of this highway, Highway 17, because when the United States government in 1941, in an emergency act, took the land from the Native Americans and the former black slaves that was farming that land, that is now Camp Lejeune, there were grave sites there. Now, the grave sites were already segregated between black and white. So when they decided, this was during segregation, when they decided that they were going to continue to build Camp Lejeune and move the graves around, they still moved all the white graves to Munford Point National Cemetery, and they brought the black graves here at Verona Loop. Now, for the ones that you see that are flat, these are graves that had just a cross stick and they didn't know who the person was. So they're unmarked. They were unmarked graves. The ones that does have a gravestone, these are ones that had a gravestone at that time frame. So it's interesting to me that, and I understand it was during segregation, and the Marine Corps still maintains both graveyards. But the fact that even to this day, these graveyards remain separated as it was during integration, and they haven't taken the time to change it, to which I believe it should be changed. If we're going to call ourselves a country of inclusion, then why does this graveyard still exist? And for all my people who have walked away from the Bible, I want you to notice something that I noticed immediately. Go to almost any other graveyard that is integrated, or any other graveyard that is Caucasian, and you'll notice that there are obelisks. Egyptian obelisks are always in those graveyards. There is absolutely zero Egyptian obelisk on this gravesite for the 162 people that were moved to this site. The Egyptian obelisk is a representation of the phallic symbol of power that Isis, or Aset, placed on a resurrected Asar, or Osiris, in order for her to hover over it, become pregnant, and then birth out the baby Horus, or Heru, who is a representation, not the sun, but is a representation of the sun. So even in their segregation, even though they gracefully still, during that time frame in 1941, buried these former black slaves, former black farmers who controlled and owned the land with the Native Americans at what is now Camp Lejeune, they still in death had to make sure the symbols of power were never present. But it's a little known black history that most people will never know about because it's small, it's unknown. And like I said, even when I was here 30 years ago, I had no idea that this was here, passed it several times. I do applaud the government for keeping it. But if you truly want to integrate it, if we're truly one nation, why are there still two separate cemeteries? And why was the black people not put at Munford Point, where that was the only place back before integration that black Marines could be trained? That is why there is an organization of Munford Point Marines who commemorate the fact that black Marines were trained at Munford Point. Like I said, little known black history in America. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.